This is a brief video that will assist you in completing your crime victims compensation application. Any in-depth questions regarding the program, eligibility requirements, or services provided should be directed to your victim specialist or the Crime Victims Compensation Program. Their phone number is located in the instructions section of this application. Here you will select which services you are applying for from the Crime Victims Compensation Program. Section 1, you will complete your personal information. It is important that you list additional means to contact you. For example, enter your email address or a friend or family member's phone number. Claimants section is for parents or guardians completing the application on behalf of a minor child, or if you are the survivor of a homicide victim, you will complete this section. Section 1, victim information, you will check off each box that applies to you. Section 2, crime information, you will select the reported crime. Type of victimizations, you will check the boxes as they apply to you. Date of crime, date crime reported, agency to which crime was reported, police complaint number, and the officer's name may all be found on your police report. Please contact your victim specialist if you need to receive a copy of the police report. In cases of domestic abuse, please indicate whether or not a CPO or TPO has been granted. If so, please indicate the number. If you do not have the number, it is fine to indicate in progress or notate the status of the TPO here. In cases of sexual assault, you will want to indicate where the SANE exam was conducted. If you know the offender, you will type their name and their relationship to you here. Under description of crime and injuries, provide a brief summary of what happened and the injuries you sustained. Location of crime is where the incident took place. Section 3 pertains to if you have received medical, dental, or mental health and counseling services. Indicate the provider and location of where you received those services. If the amount of the bill is unknown, simply indicate that under amount of bill. Section 4, funeral expenses. This will be completed by applicants filing on behalf of a homicide victim. It is important to note that funeral expense awards have increased to $10,000. Section 5, loss of support for survivors of homicide. Again, this will only be completed by applicants filing on behalf of a homicide victim. Section 6, loss of services and expenses for substitute services. This applies to victims that have been severely injured or incapacitated to the point that assistance is needed to complete your responsibilities, such as child care and/or housekeeping. If it is needed, you will type the service here and the expense you have incurred. Section 7, loss of wages, pertains to if you were unable to work due to an injury sustained during the crime. You will complete this section in its entirety, including the name of the doctor or provider who can verify your injuries contributing to time off work. If you are experiencing a financial hardship due to loss of wages and are seeking an emergency award, you can select yes here. Section 8, Secondary Victims and Dependents. Here you will list your children, spouse, and any dependents that you are seeking counseling for due to the crime and or that will be in need of emergency housing services with you. Complete all boxes below and be sure to indicate if you are seeking counseling expenses for that individual. Section 9, Insurance and Other Collateral Source Information. It is extremely important that this section be completed in its entirety and to the best of your ability. The Crime Victims Compensation Program is a payee of last resort. This means that they can only provide funding for services to the extent that no other source of payment is available. Go down the list and select yes or no for the sources listed and indicate how much each source will cover. For example, if you have health insurance, indicate how much or what percent of the bill your insurance carrier will cover. As you can see on this application, 75% of the bill will be covered by health insurance. Another example, if you are applying for loss of wages, if your job does provide you with sick leave, but you have used it all, it is important for you to note it here so that Crime Victims Compensation can take that into consideration when reviewing your application. Section 10, Restitution. Restitution is typically ordered by a judge in criminal cases to compensate victims for out-of-pocket expenses that are a direct result of the crime. At the time that you are submitting your application, most likely your case has not gone to court. Therefore, you can skip this section. Section 11, Temporary Housing and Moving Expenses. Temporary housing may be awarded up to 30 days. If you are seeking temporary housing, select yes. If you are seeking moving expenses, select yes here and enter the amount you are seeking. Crime Victims Compensation will pay up to $1,500 towards moving assistance. This typically would go towards your first, last, and security and or other expenses surrounding moving, such as a moving truck or storage unit. If you are in need of both services, you may select yes for both. Section 12, Clothing Replacement. If your clothing was kept by law enforcement and or the prosecuting attorney as evidence, select yes. Crime Victims Compensation will pay up to $100 for clothing replacement. Section 13, Transportation and Expenses. If you need assistance covering the cost of transportation to receive medical treatment, counseling, and or legal proceedings, select yes here. Section 14, Reimbursement for rental of a car being held as evidence. If your vehicle was held for evidence as a result of the crime and you had to rent a vehicle, Crime Victims Compensation can reimburse you up to a specified amount. Remember, Crime Victims Compensation does not reimburse for property damage to vehicles. Section 15, Security Measures for the Home. If you are seeking to have your locks changed, obtain a security system, or cameras, you will select yes. You will need to submit receipts or estimates for those services with your application. Section 16, Declaration and Affirmation. It is extremely important that you read this section in its entirety, sign and date this page. Crime Victims Compensation will not accept your application without this section being completed. If you had someone else assist you with completing this application, they will need to sign and provide their contact number here and date it as well. Lastly, page 7 is the authorization for release of information. Please read this page in its entirety This release form gives crime victims compensation the authority to speak with community partners, law enforcement agencies, and others providing services to you in an effort to process your claim. You will need to sign and date this page. Be sure to save the application to your device when completed. If you have any questions or require additional assistance, please contact your victim specialist or the Crime Victims Compensation Program directly.